Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Born and dead, saved by love. Count my blessings from above. Though in darkness, have no fear. Light will shine on those holding near. They know that sorrow they will pass. For I know in this life there will be something. But remember that love, yes it will. Love will reign. Yeah. Love will reign. Yeah. In my heart, I believe it. Love will reign. Oh, yeah. Yes. Have a vision. It's clear and plain. People living life, smiling again. Oh, see the children, they know no pain. Far from pressure, stress and strain. Oh, sorrow, they will pass. For I know in this life there's gonna be some pain. But remember that love, yes it will. I know. Yeah. Love will reign.
Love will reign. I'm excited to have you here, excited to be here today on another episode of Love and Stuff. And those of you that are across platforms, if you're watching, some of you are watching live. I got folks on TikTok on another camera, on LinkedIn Live, on Twitch TV, on YouTube events, on Instagram, and of course, live from Facebook, the Marcus R. Holmes page, and the Love and Stuff community from which we emanate. I'm Marcus Holmes, the love activist, and we are days away from the election, I think maybe of our lifetime, right? And we have been doing a 4-part series relative to this important time in election. And we have some guests that will be joining us very shortly. So I want you to click share and tag someone to tune in. And again, um, if you're watching live on TikTok, share that as well. And we have been talking over the last couple of months, actually, um, about a number of important issues and matters before us. And so this is the final episode of this pivotal 4-part series. And today we're focusing on making your plan to vote if you haven't already taken advantage of early voting, hearing from our panelists to share some final reflections on what you should consider to help you guide yourself through this vote, especially presidential, but there are so many other um, elections at play, so many other offices at play, and issuing a clarion call to mobilize your friends and family, especially those that are in swing states where every vote counts and every vote counts everywhere, right? But we definitely want to let those of you that live in those swing states, including Michigan, where I am, that we really want you to hone in on your plan to vote. And thank all of you that are joining on TikTok. TikTok is on a slightly different angle for us, but we will certainly make sure that they are part of this discussion, this critical discussion. So we have some returning activists, um, experts, civic engagement individuals that hopefully will be joining us very shortly. I think I see one coming this way. We started out talking about why this election is so critical and why the stakes are so high. We did a comparison of the candidates. We delved into Project 2025. And tonight we hope to talk about those battleground states, to talk to you about your plan to vote and helping those around you who might need a plan to vote, and some other sentiments that you may want to consider. You know, when we think of swing states, mostly we think of course, we think of there are many states considered swing states, but we think of Pennsylvania, we think of Arizona, we think of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, rather. We think of Georgia, we think of Nevada, of course, we think of Michigan. And Pennsylvania has 19 electoral votes, Arizona 11, Georgia 16, Nevada 6, uh, Michigan. Um, oh, I done lost my Michigan. Michigan has how many? Tell me, y'all. Michigan has, I'm going to pull it up because I want to make sure I have the right information here, putting out for you. 15 electoral votes. Thank you. I lost it for a second. And a number of these states have key Latino populations. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I know everybody has seen the disparaging remarks that were under the guise of humor about the citizenry of Puerto Rico, and which impacts people of Latino descent, people of Latin descent, people of Hispanic descent, right? Um, a number of people, I'm looking at, trying to look across platforms at the comments, um, maybe discounting the value of every vote, but we're not here in Love and Stuff. We realize that every vote counts, and the voice and vote of Latino voters matter. Latino Americans matter as well. Pennsylvania, a million population of Latinos, approximately. Arizona, 1.3 million, with huge concentrations in Maricopa, one of their big counties. Pennsylvania has a huge concentration, key counties of Philadelphia, Lehigh, and Berks. Georgia has 435,000 Latinos. Key metro area for them, Atlanta. Nevada, 450,000 Latinos. County, Clark is one of the key areas. Michigan has approximately 550,000 Latinos, 5.4% of the state's population, concentrated mostly in urban areas. Significant populations in and around Detroit, Grand Rapids, and Southwest Michigan areas. Many of them are of Mexican origin, okay, which makes up about 70% of the Latino demographic within our state here in Michigan. And so there are critical issues, key issues in swing states concerning policy on inflation and the economy, immigration and border security, abortion and reproductive rights, crime and public safety. And so we want to delve into talking about all of those things with members of our panel, and one is here, and we're going to bring her right on in. Valerie Colbert Osunwady, thank you for joining us here live and Love and Stuff. We're excited to have you here. Thank you for joining.
Can you see me?
I can see you and hear you.
Okay. Got an echo going on.
Okay, I think you got two.
Yeah.
You must have to be live in two cameras, and so you got to turn the volume off of one of them or come out. There you go. You did it. All right. Val, as I call you, Val, thanks for joining us. You've been along this journey with us, and it's an important journey, I believe, for the love of justice, an important aspect of our time with people in and around the Love and Stuff community. And I've mentioned some of the stats relative to one of the comments that I want to ask you about your thoughts on this comedian, Tony Hinchcliffe, and his comments about Puerto Rico being an island of garbage. And to me, this is just another sign to us, as if we needed another, but this is just another sign to us what is really thought about people that are, I'm going to call it on the fringes, because that's what we're considered. Some of us, people of color, are considered on the fringes and being counted out of this race as just blanket. You're going to just, whatever we say about you, you're going to just continue to vote this way or that way. What are your thoughts about that, considering that there are strong Latino and Mexican origin and Hispanic origin in a lot of these swing states? What are your thoughts?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be casting my vote. And wouldn't even I'm not Hispanic, but as an African American person of color, I would not be. That would be enough for me. That disparaging amount remark or remarks would be enough to take me to solidify my vote for the other party or the other candidate. In this case, Kamala Harris. It just really shows you what the attitudes are going to be, and the really just the overall vitriol that's going to be even more prevalent in the United States. It already is there, but it just gives a license. When have you ever heard a comedian in recent years do something like that, to say something like that? There's nothing funny about that. Absolutely nothing humorous about that. I know that humor is cutting edge and that kind of thing, but there's absolutely nothing humorous about that when you degrade another human being.
Mm-hmm.
And so he felt comfortable enough to do that. 15 years ago, would he have? I doubt very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me would be enough to sway my vote another way, whether I'm Latina or Hispanic or Puerto Rican. Just being a woman of color that would persuade me not to vote. It's interesting though that he this comic made these comments so very close to the election, where many people have already voted, have already voted. And so, that may have been something that may have dissuaded someone to vote. Who knows? But it's just really letting you know who we are going to be in company with, and what our president, or what that president, if should he win, will allow, and actually, encourage that kind of rhetoric, and that kind of behavior. And it
Yeah.
would be, it's funny to him.
Yeah.
Um,
Someone on TikTok is saying, Val, that JD's hometown has more Harris signs. So thank you for that on TikTok. I appreciate that, Blue. I wanted to jump in there because there was a young man on TikTok who has already voted, Val. And what he was saying to me last night is that he voted because he feels that the right to bear arms is under siege.
which is
And
not.
he felt that, because there was going to be potentially, Madam President, I'm going to say it in faith, would provide some clarity about the kind of weapons that have been characterized as assault weapons, that he took that to mean that that would be some way restricting him. He and another person went as far as to say, who should restrict us from having the same kind of artillery that the military does? And I said, well, didn't the military have special training to do that? Do they have psychological tests? So there are some reasons that they might, in the defense of our country, have different artillery than you would have as a citizen.
Exactly. And
But
why would you need that kind of artillery?
yeah.
If you're a hunter, you don't need it. You know, and quite frankly, it's not the only um constitutional right that has limitations. You can limit constitutional rights, time, place, and manner, as relates to the First Amendment, freedom of speech. You
Mhm,
can't yell fire in a theater.
mhm,
You may have the right to do that, but there are restrictions against that.
mhm,
So it's not unusual to have some parameters
mhm,
around what our constitutional rights. The
mhm.
Second Amendment. There is no way, and they've been saying that since Obama was in office. He's coming for your guns, but it hasn't happened.
Hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened. And what all of the candidates, or Kamala Harris in particular, have said, and then previously Joe Biden, and the Democratic Party has said they believe in common sense gun control,
Mhm,
common sense rules, that protects against these mass shootings. That has become something that sadly is so commonplace now in America. We're almost numb to it, you
mhm,
know. Um, and it's sad, but that's that nobody's coming for your guns. I mean, you've had Kamala Harris and Walls both say we both carry guns.
mhm,
He's an avid hunter. But you don't need an assault weapon to hunt. You don't need an assault weapon really to defend your home.
mhm,
You don't need that kind of artillery. Certainly don't need the artillery of the military
mhm,
to do anything. So that's a falsehood.
mhm,
No Democrat has taken your guns and has restricted your rights in any way.
mhm,
So um it's unfortunate that that has been put out there, but again, like I said, there's nothing wrong. Constitutional rights do have some limitations that are put around it. Even when Roe v. Wade was the law of the land, a constitutional right that has been taken away, there were some parameters as to when a woman could actually legally get an abortion. Those are all some sort of limitation or restriction on a constitutional right. Doesn't deny you of it. It's
right.
just it's just parameters.
Wonderful. I want to pivot a little bit, Val, and we're talking to Valerie. I'm going to call her Val tonight, probably. Valerie Colbert Osamwady. She is one of our members of our For the Love of Justice panel, and her mind and work are so critical to our community, I believe. And so I'm so grateful for her time here today, and maybe we'll have a few others join us. But I want to pivot to talk about some of the key issues in some of these swing states, and look at a Harris versus Trump kind of policy. So everyone, is, excuse me, talking about inflation and the economy. So um, some of these statistics say that Arizona and Pennsylvania, those voters are highly concerned with inflation, as I think a lot of people are. Uh, Kamala Harris is promoting the opportunity economy, proposing tax credits for working families and first time home buyers, along with caps on drug prices. She wants to curb inflation by banning corporate price gouging, despite economics debating the effectiveness of this approach. Trump is touting that his economic management, promising reduced taxes and universal tariffs to boost U.S. manufacturing, although his previous tax cut significantly increased federal debt. And inflation under his administration was lower before COVID-19 hit, but it spiked during the pandemic's early phases, which is something I think is important to note, because with those spikes and people coming out of a global pandemic, when supply is low and demand is high, there's bound to be some sort of inflation. What are your thoughts about those voters that might be on the fence, especially Arizona and Pennsylvania, but across the country, who might be on the fence about which candidate is really talking closer to values and truth relative to inflation and the economy?
Well, um, I'm not an economist, but I will say this. Um, the economists have said have all um, opined that Kamala Harris's plan would not would in fact not be as detrimental to the deficit. In you talking trillions already, so they've already discussed that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the difference in the plans, first of all, as always, is the common man under Trump is not going to benefit.
Mm-hmm.
The common man is not going to benefit.
Mm-hmm.
His tariffs on basic goods and services that you and I, the common person, the middle class, the everyday person, utilizes will in fact spike in terms of prices. So the affordability of it is has been borne out that we will feel it in our pocketbooks more so.
Mm-hmm.
As it relates to Kamala Harris, if you look at her plan, she has plans that gives greater tax credit as it relates to children. And it is interesting because when that happened under COVID, the poverty rate for children dropped. It was a way in which to bring children from uplifted them from poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they didn't keep that. I think it was $3,000 during the COVID and Biden administration. And she is, proposing $6,000. What I do like about her plan is that she is interested in small business, investing in small businesses, which, as Black entrepreneurs, that's really where we are at. you
Mm-hmm.
know um and she's looking to make that a huge investment in small businesses. You don't see that in the Trump plan. What you do see is the 1% getting, greater tax breaks.
Mm-hmm.
She also has said anyone making less than 400,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a pretty nice salary.
That is.
400,000 will not be impacted by any tax hikes.
Mm-hmm.
It's those that make above that and
Mm-hmm.
more
Mm-hmm.
that will see, their tax margin, or what they pay in taxes increase.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because years ago we had and I'm gonna say decades ago, I was a kid, of course, then, but yeah, through study and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
you had corporations that were good corporate citizens.
Mm-hmm.
The corporations had no problems paying their taxes and their fair share of taxes. And it certainly impacted the communities as it
Mhm.
relates to schools, as it relates to goods and services. That changed.
Mhm.
And so this is really a pivot back to that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and everybody knows the story that the secretary pays more in taxes than the CEO.
Mhm.
So I do like the fact of her, and you're right, the price gouging aspect of her plan is not necessarily borne out to say that it is going to make a huge difference in inflation. But so what? Let's call people out for what they are.
Mhm.
If you are in fact taking advantage of of a situation that you do not have to, that impacts middle class or poor people, whomever the case may be, then why not call them out? Why not put them on front streets so for everybody to see? Because that does, in fact, that will, of course, hopefully modify behavior, and any modification of behavior that can impact and help others in as it relates to the economy, and providing for their families, putting food and the basics in your home, then I'm for it. I'm for it. But again, like I said, the economists, and I would encourage people to just Google it.
Mhm.
There's so much information at our fingertips. Google it, and you will see that the Trump plan will definitely impact more so than the Harris plan our national deficit.
Yeah. We're talking to Valerie Colbert Osumwedi, who's a part of our special task force, I'm going to call them, for the love of justice. And we have done a 4-part series. Tonight is the final part of that series where we talk about some key issues in swing states and your plan to get out and vote if you haven't already made a plan to take advantage of early voting or planning to vote on November 5th. So thank you for joining us. If you're on LinkedIn Live, Twitch TV, Twitter, YouTube events, Instagram, and TikTok, and of course, here live on Facebook. I want to pivot and talk a little bit about immigration and border security, which is on the mind of many citizens. And Nevada and Georgia in particular are focused on these immigration policies. Harris plans to revive a bipartisan border security bill, increase immigration judges, and provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers and immigrants, while Trump emphasizes stricter immigration control, proposing a revival of the Remain in Mexico policy and expanded deportations. His platform includes ending birthright citizenship for children born to undocumented immigrants. I want to hear your thoughts on that, Valerie. And those of you across platforms, drop your thoughts into the comments because we want to hear from you as well.
Well, all I can say is I hope that the bipartisan bill does get revived. And I say that because um, it was a true compromise between Republicans and Democrats. And if no one has realized what happened to that bill, it was really tanked by Donald Trump because he did not want Joe Biden to get credit for anything on the border. He needed to have the border as an election issue. And so he killed that bill. I'm trying to think of the senator, one of the main senators that is his name is escaping me. Senators that wrote and authored that bill, and I can remember at Biden's State of the Union address, him talking about how they tanked that bill and what that bill would have done, and they panned to that senator, and he was shaking his head like, "Yep, that's what they did." And he's a Republican senator and has come out and said and stated how really how disappointed he was that all of that work and back and forth that would have improved border security um, was really just in one fell swoop, one phone call, just basically nullified. So the bipartisan bill, as I understand it, of course, would increase the number of judges for those deportation hearings, which would allow more people to be heard sooner. It's interesting because my daughter used to work for the DOJ in the immigration court.
Mhm.
And I remember her when she was working there at the time. She was part of her job duty was to schedule those deportation hearings. And that was in 20, I think she was there in 2021. And she was actually scheduling deportation hearings for people as far out as 2025 in 2021. Okay. And so, this, of course, that the increase in judges certainly would have sped up the process for those people who either would be deported or remain, you know. And so, and it also increased border security as it relates to, the guards, those border security things. And I'm trying to think of the other aspect of it. But I know the biggest takeaway for me was the deportation hearings, because there's so many people saying that, you apply and then you're just out in America, roaming around. But if you have the ability to have those hearings quicker, then that kind of undercuts, you know um that argument that, that you come in, you get a hearing date, it's 3 years away, and you're still in the United States with no process.
Mhm.
And so, it's interesting how, again, a bipartisan bill, something that all of the Democrats were not happy with, but there was some compromise on both sides, and it would definitely would have affected the security of the border, as well as, like I said, augmenting, at least for sure, the number of judges for deportation hearings.
Yeah. And part of my challenge, Val, because my heritage is immigration too.
Hmm.
We were forced immigrants, right? I don't even know
Right,
if you can call that in the same breath
right.
the same thing. But America is supposed to be this land of the free, this home of the brave, this great place, this place and land of opportunity. And we haven't done enough to build a viable infrastructure for the people that are here, so that the people that come, we won't accuse them of this bad behavior and taxing our system. Well, if we do a better job of building this infrastructure, that would never be a real complaint, right? Because if we were building jobs here, if we were building corporations here, if we were bringing the work here, this would be the place that people will want to come to do that work, right? And they want to accuse them of this level of criminality that I think is just unconscionable
Yeah.
as a world power to say about people who are trying to come, refugee or not, who are trying to come to your country. It is not positioning us as the world power that I think we have self-proclaimed, at least over decades and maybe even centuries. What are your
Well,
thoughts?
I think one of the dog whistles, which is always, the dog whistle, the thing that you do is make sure that there's an other, there's a hated other,
Mhm,
and that's what they're doing with immigrants,
mhm.
with people who are trying to come to this country. Only the immigrants from certain countries, though.
Correct.
You know, the folks from the South America, from Mexico, from Africa, those are the, but you don't hear that about Eastern European states, or there can be immigrants from Britain too. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
So you only hear it about certain immigrants, not
mhm,
all.
mhm,
Not to mention the fact that crime among immigrants is negligible.
mhm,
It is negligible. That is borne out in statistics.
mhm,
So when you have a a situation where an immigrant has engaged in some kind of criminal activity, it is not the norm. It's not
mhm,
normative.
mhm, mhm,
It is really an aberration of,
mhm.
based on our based on statistics, and based on crime statistics.
Hmm.
So but really it's just a matter of trying to make the other, um, a monster. You
Right.
know,
They're
if
eating the
you can,
dog. They're
yeah,
eating
if
the
you,
dogs.
yeah, if you can, yeah, exactly. If you can make someone, hate someone other than themselves, and to make them better or believe that they are better than someone, then that is definitely a strategy that has always been utilized, among, and I'm going, among certain candidates.
Hmm.
I'll leave it at that. But
Hmm.
I will also say this, when you're talking about the dog whistle that they're coming over here taking our jobs. Really? The jobs that most immigrants take are the jobs we don't even want to do.
They don't even want to do.
We don't even want to do. And I would say also, and I know I've read this and heard it as well from maybe the Brennan Center or whatever, you have that as an impact on our economy. If
Sure.
you don't have folks that's coming over here that's doing the agricultural work, do you not think that your produce is not going to, be higher priced
Hmm.
because you don't have the workers to do what you need to do to
Hmm.
bring that to the market?
Hmm.
All of that is a synergy that, all come together
Hmm.
that impact us,
Hmm.
so yes, of course we do need to look at the borders. Do need to secure our borders. Nobody is running away from that.
Hmm.
Kamala Harris is not running away from that. No Democrat is running away from that. But it is, it's a plan. It's a planned way of which to realistically, you know tackle that issue. you
Hmm.
know and so I just think, when you, like I said, when you can make somebody an other, you know for us it was, not too long ago, and in history, of those who remember, it was Willie Horton. you
Hmm.
know Today it's it's the monster immigrant. And like you said, eating dogs and destroying a community based on lies, really lies,
Hmm.
and actually not only destroying a community, but putting people in danger,
Hmm.
a whole community in danger based on lies.
Hmm. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, I'll leave that alone until next year or whatever. There is a there's a lawsuit pending
Hmm.
from that community
Hmm.
suing, because they've crafted a lawsuit to sue for those comments, because they have hurt the community of those Haitian immigrants in that particular town in Ohio. So stay tuned. We'll make sure we look at that later, Marcus, later down the road.
Okay. We're talking to Valerie Colbert-Osemwady from our For the Love of Justice team. And we have done a 4-part series. Tonight concludes our series as we get to lift every voice and vote. Every vote counts. And we are imploring you to be engaged. If you haven't already taken advantage of early voting, that you will make it your business to cast your vote and lift every voice and vote. Next, I want to pivot and talk a little bit about crime and public safety, which is also on the minds of people all around the country. But voters in Arizona and Georgia expressed concerns about public safety, not unlike others. Harris is focusing on reform, advocating for drug decriminalization and support programs for nonviolent offenders, while Trump promises to increase police funding, military involvement in fighting crime, and strict immigration enforcement to address public safety. Both candidates support some criminal justice reforms, but their approaches differ widely in scope and emphasis. So, Val, I want to ask you about that. What are your thoughts about the contrast? Because there is so much, this is one of the areas where there is so much misinformation and hidden information as it relates to Project 2025, what would be intended with the DOJ and FBI, and what broad powers they would have under that. So I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, first and foremost, violent crime is down 10.3% according to the FBI statistics. Okay.
Okay.
And apparently that follows a trend from 2023. So violent crime has decreased, as I'm reading a statistic that I wrote down, by 10.3% in the first 6 months of 2024.
Mhm.
And so um it again, it's always great to make, crime, and not saying that the crime is not important, safe living conditions aren't important,
Mhm.
but it's always the way in which to scare people,
Mhm.
to make them anxious.
Mhm.
But so I would say this as it relates to Kamala Harris, and her wanting to decriminalize, I think it's marijuana for
Mhm.
one thing,
Mhm.
because in on the federal system, it's still a schedule. What is it, Schedule 1 or Schedule D2, whatever it is, um, narcotic. So
Mhm.
it's still considered a dangerous narcotic.
Mhm.
And I think what she wants to do, first of all, is that would certainly impact some of the disproportionate sentencing that we have and do see in our jails
Mhm.
as it relates to possession of marijuana.
Mhm.
We see that on the state side, that has been decriminalized, and and in fact, there have been in many states, and I'd even believe here, there's in many states, there's been a look taken they've taken a look at sentencing of those people who are in jail for marijuana crimes,
Mhm.
having a certain amount, and basically, reducing those sentences or vacating those sentences. And because, marijuana is now legal
Mhm.
in many, many states. And
Mhm.
so now you just have the federal side of it.
Mhm.
And I think, as trends go, that's probably a smart way to go, because it does disproportionately um hit, brown and black communities, so I would think that kind of reform, that's something that I think most people can understand and probably support,
Mhm.
as it relates to that.
Mhm.
um in terms of, I don't think anyone has said, Kamala or anyone else has said anything about defunding the police, which they took that all out of context. And and she is in support of those programs that focus in on, I want to say, the social um, psychology of the criminal or criminality. And
Mhm.
I say that in the sense of, the mentally ill,
Mhm.
that you have someone, you put those funds into those into those experts that can partner with the police,
Mhm.
and to take a look at those kinds of incidents with the mentally ill, whereby our police officers are not trained and equipped to do that, nor should they be.
Mhm. Mhm.
They shouldn't be the panacea for
Mhm.
everything that's in society.
Mhm.
Their jobs are, in fact, to really fight crime.
Mhm.
And if you can take some of those, that funding, and have them partner with the right people to deal with those kinds of issues, then that's more focus on exactly what you want police to be doing.
Mhm.
I think of Chief White,
Mhm.
who is, leaving the police department,
Mhm.
who has always had a a love and a passion for mental health,
Mhm.
you know, and he is now leaving policing in order to follow that more so,
Mhm.
even though he will probably still be partnering with the
Mhm.
police
Mhm.
in order to make some of those some of those programs and things a reality.
Mhm.
And so, you do have those in policing that understand the
Mhm.
need, not defund, but to
Mhm.
redirect
Mhm.
funding, you
Mhm.
know. And so that's what I see in terms of uh, uh, Kamala Harris as it relates to, as we know, Project 2025. The DOJ would just be an instrument and become an DOJ, FBI, whatever, armed services would just become a tool for retribution. It wouldn't be about um, anything about justice. You can guarantee there would not be anything that the DOJ would be investigating as it relates to voter rights,
Mhm.
civil rights.
Mhm.
All of that would be closed down.
Mhm.
So that's gone,
Mhm.
and it's been said in the project, and so and Trump has said as much. So those divisions or bureaus in the DOJ that black and brown people in general, our
Mhm.
citizens rely on in
Mhm.
order to keep our police, our
Mhm.
government honest
Mhm.
and not harm the civil rights of
Mhm.
our citizens,
Mhm.
they will be gone. I mean, couple that with what is already, let's just look at voting rights, what has already been crippled by our Supreme Court.
Mhm.
And you still have the DOJ that can still go out and investigate those things. Do you think that's going to be a priority? Voting for Trump,
Mm.
securing voting rights for Trump?
Mm.
No, absolutely not.
Mm.
What I and certainly um it's not going to even be securing or looking at criminal policing.
Correct.
The DOJ goes in to determine. I mean, the city of Detroit was under a consent decree of the DOJ. Excessive force. How are we treating prisoners? How are we treating, you know, um, minorities, women, black, all of those people that get caught in the net of crime in policing. Uh,
Mhm.
do you think that a DOJ under the Trump administration is going to be focused on that? I
Mhm.
think not.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think not.
Yeah. We're talking with Valerie Coverdosum-Wade. If you're just tuning in, whether you're watching us on TikTok, thank you, those of you that are there, and Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube events. We are talking about some of the key issues, some of them key among swing states. And I'm pivoting to one, Val, that really has it's really emotionally charged.
Mm,
I Before I leave this crime and public safety, I do want to say there is so much misinformation out there about the defund police that's being
mhm,
attached to um, Kamala Harris's campaign. And instead of looking at, as you said it so eloquently, reframing the use of those dollars, repurposing them for social intervention, which will be a strategy, I think, that would help many. And considering that we came out of a pandemic and no one has really looked at the impacts of that pandemic on people's mental health and on those that are already exacerbated and challenged with their mental health, I think it is smart law enforcement, is smart social policy to take a look at how we can better partner in those areas. So I agree 1,000% with you. But abortion and reproductive rights, very highly emotionally charged. And we'll dovetail at the end of this into the religious community, very, very emotionally charged. And in states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, abortion rights are very highly of concern to those citizens and pivotal as they are to everyone else. Harris vows to codify Roe versus Wade into law, promising to eliminate the filibuster if necessary. Trump has remained vague on federal abortion policies, focusing instead on state level restrictions while defending the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe. What are your thoughts about the issues around this emotionally charged um, right that is under attack, has been under attack?
Well, let's just call it what it is, a right that was taken away,
Mm-hmm.
okay? A constitutionally protected right that was taken away.
Mm-hmm.
The courts don't normally take away constitutional rights. They may expand them,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't take them away. So they're gone, okay? Under Roe,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And now you have a patchwork of, from state to state to state, of abortion laws, or I'm going to call them reproductive freedom laws, because everything about reproductive freedom is not and let me couch it like this. Every abortion is not to end a life, an
Mm-hmm.
unwanted pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Abortions are also needed to protect a woman's right to actually to protect a woman's health, and whether or not it really to protect her health, and also to ensure that she lives,
Mm-hmm.
and to also can also guarantee that she can have children in the future,
Mm-hmm.
you know um and so when you're talking about people who have actually planned pregnancy, want children, are thrilled to have be pregnant, and something happens and the pregnancy ends, the baby is no longer viable. The baby could be dead or whatever you want to say,
Mm-hmm.
not living. And then you have to have permission,
Mm-hmm.
or you have to, a doctor has to tell you, well, let's wait and see how much sicker you can get
Mm-hmm.
before I can perform this abortion, where we can really say that your life is at risk. What kind of craziness is that? I'm not ending a pregnancy because it's unplanned. That's one bucket of a reason for an abortion. But I'm ending a pregnancy because it's no longer viable, and it's impacting my health, and whether or not it will I live, or can I have children in the future?
Mm-hmm.
There are countless stories now that we know of women who have bled out, and that's not a lie, in parking lots, who have to go across state lines in order to get basic reproductive um health
Healthcare.
care.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first fallacy that we have to, kind of look at. It's not always, every abortion is not about ridding an unplanned pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
about saving the woman's life,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately even saving her ability to have children in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you have a series of patchwork places where you have doctors that are frightened because, maybe I'll go to jail. I don't know. They don't know what they can, how they can protect themselves, and also um engage or to give health care to women.
Mm-hmm.
No government should be making that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that you do choose to end an unplanned pregnancy, okay? Let's say you're a victim of rape or incest, or maybe you're not, you know, but your economy doesn't allow for that. You don't, maybe your mental health doesn't allow for that. Who knows? But, to me, that's between you and God,
Mm-hmm.
you know and that's ultimately, for me, that's who you will be answering to,
Mm-hmm.
in the end. No government should be telling you what to do with your body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that, all of these people want to tell you that they're pro-life, but really they're pro-birth,
Correct.
because pro-life means you're protecting life from the
Cradle to the
cradle
grave.
to the grave.
That's correct.
Okay, there should be all kinds of social safety plans in place that enhance your life, your ability to live and thrive, and we don't have that in this society.
Right.
Okay, so not only are we talking about, when we're talking about reproductive rights, now you have, first of all, that's the abortion aspect of it. Then you have the in vitro fertilization, where you have women and, men and women who are trying to plan families. And now that's attacked. And, that's why Trump is keeping quiet on that, because never did he think uh, that would be an issue, that the pro life folks would be actually, and I don't want to say all pro life, but some pro life folks would be advocating against
Mm-hmm.
in vitro fertilization, which allows people to have families
Mm-hmm.
that could not otherwise do that.
Mm-hmm.
Next is contraceptive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's interesting because, once again, contraception is not just always to prevent pregnancies. It's to regulate a whole lot of things in a woman's body.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is used for that.
Mm-hmm.
So you think of that, all of those kinds of things, that and it's just like how people look at Planned Parenthood, thinking that that's just an organization that promotes abortion.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it is an organization that provides basic health care to women. They get checkups and mammograms, and they get pap smears and pap checks, all of those things that women need to do to ensure that they are healthy. Planned Parenthood does that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an abortion clinic.
Mm-hmm.
There may be abortions there,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the end and all of Planned Parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have this one group that has, narrowed this very important right,
Mm-hmm.
that has restricted it now, and really just focused on one thing, which is um, abortions. Now you think about, and you think about what it is that is now going on in the United States. You have now, a push for fetal personhood, which is interesting to me because, it's we still are putting the onus on the woman. We not, to me, if a fetus is a person, then I need some child support. Okay, from the beginning. Okay, so if a fetus is a person, then that goes, that shouldn't just all fall on the woman until that baby is born. The father of that child should be held at the same standard of providing for that life.
Mm-hmm.
Not just making the woman the incubator, and the father, has nothing to do with that until maybe the baby is born.
Mm-hmm.
But there should be some laws in place, I guess, now, that make that, something that, based on the rationale,
Mm-hmm.
that make that a certainty. But, when you think about it, I'm a mother. You have the bans on abortion at 6 weeks. I didn't know I was pregnant at 6 weeks.
Mm.
Had no idea I was pregnant at 6 weeks. And guess what? I was planning my pregnancy, and I didn't know at 6 weeks that I was pregnant. Most women don't.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have states that say, oh, you can't get an abortion past 6 weeks. Well, it's the seventh week. I didn't know I was pregnant. So now I'm forced, to have this baby.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I'm in a medically a medical situation where I shouldn't have children.
Hmm.
You know, contraception is not 100% full, foolproof. But let's
Hmm.
just say, you know, I've been practicing safe sex, or I've had contraceptives, and I get pregnant, and I shouldn't have a baby.
Hmm.
Medically, I shouldn't have a baby,
Hmm.
and I find out 7 weeks down the road I'm pregnant. So now, not only am my physical being is at risk, you want me to have this child, and then you want me to carry this child, yet yet my physical well-being is at stake. And then what are you doing as a society to ensure that my pregnancy, if I'm high risk or whatever, I have the appropriate medical attention. I don't have to work. Let's say I'm have to be on bed rest. What are we doing as a society to guarantee that I can safely have this child?
Hmm.
We're not doing anything like that.
Not at all. And I want to just jump in there because you said your mother, and I think often on this issue, I think about Autumn, because I am pro life,
Hmm.
but, and I'm not just saying pro birth, I'm pro life, but I feel very strongly that if Autumn made a decision that she didn't want to have a child and she didn't plan to have a child, or even worse, she was a victim of sexual assault or molestation or something of that nature, I would want her to have the freedom to make that decision. I might vehemently oppose it, but it is not, I believe, my right to legislate what is between her and her God. I feel the same way about a lot of the things that they're saying are on the fringes of issues that Kamala Harris supports for transgenders and the LGBTQIA plus. Whether or not you espouse their choices of life does not mean you legislate those. God has given us the freedom of choice, and we reconcile with Him. Now,
Right.
if we were truly a Christian nation, we would adopt that. I am just so utterly embarrassed by people who don't adopt it and then say all kind of vitriolic things to those that aren't on their side. I saw a clip of Jimmy Swaggart's son saying,
Yeah.
saying some referendum on the black church. How dare he,
Yeah.
considering the trail of tears, I'm going to call it, of
Right.
things that have happened in that dynasty of Swaggarts, right?
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
just,
Exactly.
it embarrasses me as a man of faith that that is the position that people take. I just don't believe we should be in the business of legislating lifestyle. We should be in the business of evangelizing lifestyle by the way that we live.
Right.
They will know that you pass from dark to light by your love for the brethren. And how will the brethren know you love them? By the way you live.
That's
By the
right.
way you live. What's the whole duty of man? It's by the way you live. And
That's right.
so we're looking to legislate what we say is in this great American experiment that we have said we're going to hold to these unalienable rights, these rights that we have, and we're just giving away the rights that we say because we don't need them. Well, we might not, an individual might not, but the collective, this is for the greater good. It isn't
Right.
for the individual good. And so I'm just, it's almost unbelievable that we are in 2024 and we've overturned Roe v. Wade, and we're now saying, people literally have to have a plan of action to find the state where they might
Yeah.
find a doctor who can give them the reproductive health care that they need. They might have to leave their state. They may have to leave their family. They have
Right.
to figure out all kind of things and co-insurance and deductibles across networks and out of networks, putting an extra burden on something that is already difficult for people to come to a decision regarding. I think
Right.
it is reprehensible.
Yeah.
And I find it difficult for Christians to take the stance that they're taking when, if we think about, if this were really about lifestyle, if this was really about integrity, if this was really about holiness, the other side's record on those things is abysmal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I it's so emotionally charged.
Yeah.
But I think I'm hoping that people will drill through uh, all of the rhetoric to get to the skinny, if you will, of it, is that we're seeking to legislate something for someone else's right. And
Right.
America is supposed to be about the rights that we all
Of the
have
collective.
of the collective.
Mm.
I,
Hence the United States
the United
of
States
America.
of America.
And so I agree, whatever your, just, to me, the basic the basic treatment of human life,
Mhm,
whether or not you agree with a lifestyle is one thing.
mhm,
Okay, but these are human beings.
mm,
These are humans. These are, somebody's daughter, somebody's son,
mhm,
these are human beings.
mhm,
We deserve to be treated, as such. They're not
mhm,
animals. They're not of subhuman. You
mhm.
know, you just, you treat people, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. You
Yeah,
know, and so whether or not you espouse to a certain lifestyle, it doesn't mean that you go out with vitriol hate
right,
and you physically abuse
right.
or you take away rights or anything like that. Quite frankly, really, a demonstrated love. We're ambassadors, as Paul says. We're ambassadors
Mhm,
down here.
mhm,
We are to reflect if you think about an ambassador in a foreign land.
mhm.
I'm a U.S. ambassador. I am reflecting the values of the United States in another place.
Right,
Well, we are ambassadors of Christ,
right,
and we are to be reflecting that love,
right,
okay, that Christ has
right,
for mankind,
right.
okay. And so, whether or not you agree with it or not, people deserve to be treated as human beings with dignity and respect. And like
Mhm.
you said, that's between their God,
That's
them
right.
and their God.
That's
Okay. But it's just to me, when I hear things and see things, and everybody has their opinions on things,
sure.
but just the fact that you think that you have the right to, I don't know, denigrate. It's just incomprehensible.
Yeah.
But going back to reproductive rights, Marcus,
Mhm.
it's so much more than just, like I said, aborting an unplanned pregnancy. There's
Sure.
so much more, involved in, the fact that we now have the government directing, you know our course of medical treatment and what
Mhm.
we think is best for ourselves.
Mhm.
You know, it's incredible to me.
Yeah. We're talking with Valerie Coverdosum-Wady, and if you're watching on TikTok or Instagram, here on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube events, Twitch, or Twitter, I want you to click share. We're going to take a quick break, and we're coming back to talk about some things you can do to get to the polls. If you haven't taken advantage of early voting, which is one of the things, but we want you to have a plan of action for voting. This is For the Love of Justice Special Edition. our special edition of For the Love of Justice. We're here with Valerie Colbert Osunwady, and we have been talking about the issues um, around voting and swing states in particular. We talked about most recently abortion and reproductive rights and reproductive health, crime and public safety, immigration and border security, inflation, and the economy. And we want you to drill into those issues that matter to you and more. As Val said, you can Google it. There's a lot of information out there, and you need to Google to move through the misinformation so that you have the real data, the real stats as to what is happening on both sides, which candidate really has the record that you're looking for on the issues that matter most to you. And we want you to have a plan to get to the polls and vote with confidence. And so, first is early voting. If you want to avoid lines, hopefully there will be long lines or unforeseen challenges on election day, doctor's appointments, different things that might happen on that day. If you're feeling unwell and you can get to early voting, get to early voting. If you have to work and you can't get off work, some other commitment, vote early and check the hours and locations for early voting in your area. Anything you want to share on that, Val, about early voting?
I was just going to the checklist that I have. First, check your registration. Let's say you haven't voted for a while. Check your registration and or register to vote. You know, there are deadlines to that, so you need to know what your deadlines are. Learn about early voting options, as it relates to I know in Detroit, um there the early voting started what last weekend or the 19th or something like that,
Mhm.
and you can go to what any precinct anywhere and cast your ballot to vote, which I think is just fabulous.
Mhm.
You don't have to be in your neighborhood. If I'm out and about, I'm like, oh, let me get in here and vote. you know so you need to learn about those options. Then you need to talk to learn about, if you haven't early voted, what's your same day options? What's your precinct? Where do I go? Those kinds of things. I want to also say research your candidates. You know, um, you know, uh uh President Harris, and I'm prophesying, I guess too. President Harris can't get an agenda done if she doesn't have a Senate and the Congress with her. You know, research your candidates as it relates to the judiciary. If you haven't learned anything this last past year, or really since Roe was overturned, okay, you have to know that the courts are key into everything. They are key. So, you need to look and see what's the record if you can. If you want to just do a straight Democratic ticket or whatever your ticket may be, but you need to research your candidates and see what it is that they actually stand for. Okay?
Yeah.
And
And I'm going
then
to jump in there because I know you're jumping around. I was asking about early voting, so I think you covered that. Carpools and transportation support. So you got to set up group rides with neighbors, friends.
right.
I know there are a number of the Divine Nine that are doing different things. NAACP branches, unions, churches are offering free or discounted ride to polling station. Using some of the ride sharing apps are offering discounts and free rides to polling places on election day. Just always turn your location on and be careful using those. And you were delving into something that I think is important about the issues. I think that you got to visit your local election websites and places so you can review sample ballots and checklists for races and propositions so that you can focus on the issues so that you won't have any surprises at the poll. And one that
Right.
I know that Brenda does, organize family Zoom sessions to practice filling out ballots or discussing important races and building excitement for election day. And
Yep.
you were talking about knowing what's on the ballot. I think I'm going to let you go right there. Get the full picture is one of the things. Use websites like Ballotpedia or local election boards
Right.
and go all the way down the ballot. So I just wanted to catch up to some of the ways, but I think
And
you're saying we got
even
to make sure that we help, which we didn't do when we had Obama there, right? We didn't make sure that he had the backing in both the Senate and the House. So we got to make sure that we're doing that voting. So go ahead.
Right. And that's so important because a president's power is limited. There's an executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch, three branches of government, all of which are supposed to serve as checks and balances. So
Mhm.
the president, when people say, why can't the president just stop, Roe v. Wade? He could have stopped. No, the president does not have that ability. But the House and the Senate can certainly pass a bill that a president can sign into law, making Roe v. Wade the ability legal abortion or reproductive freedom legal in all 50 states. So just remember that, because if they don't have the ability to do what they need to do, or have the tools in Congress and the Senate, it's you know it's almost an uphill battle getting some of these reform measures and things that um, they're looking to do through, and actually making them into law and a reality. You can do executive orders, but guess what? They end after a certain, when the president leaves that office, and they're often challenged too,
Mhm. Mhm.
as it relates to the ability to do that. Hence, the student loan forgiveness,
Mhm.
that executive order,
Mhm.
challenged and gone. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
so just remember those things when you are, voting. It's not just the top of the ticket; it's the full ticket that counts, because everything, like I said, it's that synergy that is important, so that those progressive reforms that you're looking for your candidate to put into place, they have the ability to do so.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I love the idea of family Zoom. I really love that idea of showing
Mhm.
them how to fill out your ballot appropriately, what to do. I have a friend that they have a every other Sunday family Zoom. I mean, across the country. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
and they talk about the candidates. Each of them take the time to talk about the candidates, where they are, so people understand and know who's on the ballot. And so just remember those things. I think those are all there. And share your plan. Get some
Mhm.
excitement and share your plan. Hey, after you vote, go out and have breakfast.
Yes.
Who,
Yes.
just that kind of thing. Just make it a day, a
Yes.
celebration.
Yes.
We voted, and let's celebrate with some scrambled eggs. I don't know,
There you
but
go.
make it a day. You
Yes.
know,
That ties right into my number 5, host virtual voting rallies, right? A
yeah.
family rally, which you can do via Zoom or FaceTime calls, because now you can do
Hmm.
multiple people on FaceTime, in swing states to remind them to vote. Friendship circles, having those scrambled eggs, right? Schedule those small meetups after you are connecting virtually where you can in an area, or groups of people in various different areas, and you go live in those areas to review your voting plans, to encourage people who haven't gotten to the poll yet, or people that are undecided, to join you at the poll at a certain time or a
Yeah.
certain place, to build meetup schedules. An excellent thing to do. Number 6, support undecided voters. Conversations matter. So engage with your friends and colleagues, and you know who they are, who feel indifferent or undecided, who seem lethargic, who seem depressed or seem discouraged about voting. Discuss the issues that matter to them, not
Yeah.
just matter to you, but to them, and emphasize their power, the power of every vote, and offer them a ride to the poll. Say, hey, come on and go with me. It's a fun way to be helpful to ensure that everybody gets to the poll. And then my number 7, and I'll jump back to you, Val, social media mobilization. Share your voting plans. Be careful sharing your locations, but share your
Right.
voting plan. Post about your voting schedule to inspire others to do the same. Put your button up. A lot of people say, I voted early. Put that up as a post. Do a countdown post. Use engaging countdowns on all of these platforms leading up to election day to remind people. And that's one of my things. I'm doing countdown posts. And then tag friends who have friends in swing states. Learn the counties in the swing states and look at your connections on LinkedIn. Look at your friends on Facebook. Look at your subscribers on YouTube and find out where they are. And if they're in swing states, reach out to them. Start that conversation and use social media as a tool to mobilize them. Want to add anything, Val?
Well, I will just say this. North Carolina, we know there are what, 16 electoral votes there.
Mhm.
Their early voting is down among African Americans.
Wow.
Remember that. So some people in North Carolina tell them to get out there and early vote. And I will tell you this too, or vote. Early vote is great, but
Mhm.
vote.
Mhm.
I would say this too. Um, if you have a ballot, you have an absentee ballot, and unless you are, you have to, maybe you can't walk it in. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
going to suggest that to everybody, given what happened in Washington,
Mhm.
where they, set the ballot boxes on fire, and all of those votes are gone. And one of the things that they were encouraging people to go to their voting place to see if their ballot had already been tabulated, and if it had not, making sure that they voted. I mean, you just think about the fact that if I voted early, turned in my ballot, and I'm out of the country, and that happened to be the place where people are not, this is not a joke. This election is unbelievable. That kind of thing you don't see in democracies. Actually burning a ballot box to destroy votes. So personally, if you have the physicality to do it and you're voting, you're early voting or you're turning in your ballot, take it in. I would say take it in if you can.
Mhm.
Take it inside and have your protect your ballot that way.
Mhm.
Particularly in Washington State, which
Mhm.
we see that's where it's happening.
Mhm.
But you know, um, I hate to say that kind of thing where you have so much vitriol, especially in these close swing states.
Mhm.
But protect your ballot,
Mhm.
even if you're doing an absentee ballot, and you can go in and turn it in. That would be my suggestion.
Mhm.
Just based on what's happening around you know the country. Just
Mhm.
so, but I've always enjoyed voting. I've always enjoyed election day.
Mhm.
I've always felt like I was honoring my ancestors, those who, strove and died and shed blood for this. I even think about, and I tell this to people, and they're almost like, what? I tell them, my parents were what, 35 years old with children before they had the full ability and protections of the Voting Rights Act.
Mhm.
My
Wow.
parents.
Wow.
So, I definitely have, that has always been infused in me to vote. And and when I tell people that, especially folks who have never had anything impeding their right to vote, when they hear that, they're astonished because it's just my parent generation.
Mhm.
And now, that's being eroded.
Mhm.
So let's get out there and vote. I do it because I'm civic minded, and I want things to change if possible. I do it because, like I said, I'm standing on somebody's shoulders who
Mhm.
couldn't do it, and I just am um just thankful that I can actually still go to vote with relative ease. When I say that, there's no military here, with guns, in which you can see around the world where casting a vote can actually be harmful to you. We don't have that here.
Mhm.
So let's celebrate the fact, even though there are challenges to our vote, we still basically have the freedom to go and cast our vote and change our the trajectory of our country. So let's just do that.
Yes. Valerie Colbert Osumwedi, thank you so much for joining us as we bring this to a close as our final installment of this four-part series. And we hope that all of you will take some of those 7 things, and we'll make sure we post those on our platforms, of just 7 ways that you can get ready to vote. And we want to make sure that you vote. Your vote matters, whether you're on LinkedIn Live, Twitch TV, YouTube events, TikTok, Facebook, or Twitter. We want to make sure that you are voting, that you are engaged, and that you know that your vote matters. So we need you to lift every voice and vote. Val, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me, Marcus. I enjoy this.
And we're so grateful for the Love of Justice team. All of them couldn't be with us tonight, but we had a stellar representation with Valerie Colbert Olson-Wady, who is a stellar, brilliant mind and has a constitutional framework as to how she thinks about things. And as you can tell, is a stalwart legal mind in our community, and we're grateful to have her. As we get ready to go, Val talked about her dad and mom being 35 with children before they had full privileges. And I can remember stories of my dad telling me about pole tricks. I still get emotional sometimes thinking about it. I didn't really believe that there were such things called pole tricks. But my dad told me because he was so good with math, he could always answer the questions that they said to him, and they would call him Old Nig. You can imagine what the rest of that N word is. I said it here because it still gets me emotional thinking about that. There was a time when my dad, who I could touch, hug, kiss, and get whooped by, there was a time where he didn't have clear voting rights and protections under the law. And he told me how important it was to vote, and how that was connected, and how millages work, and how taxes work. And he told me all these things from being just a little boy up until the time I was able to vote. And what an honor and privilege it was when I turned 18 to be able to vote, because I had been reared in the fashion and the tradition of knowing that he was going to vote and he would walk. My dad loved to walk. Our voting location is only a few blocks away, but he loved to walk. And he walked fast if I walked with him. But he wanted me to know what voting was about. He wanted me to raise my voice. Now, some will say I raise my voice sometimes when it shouldn't be raised. But my dad is the reason that I raised that voice. And I will forever be grateful to stand on his shoulders and my mom's shoulders, because they were avid voters and avid about supporting the candidates that they believed in and the causes that they believed in. And I have hopefully handed that off to Autumn. And if Autumn favors us and has children and the Lord tarries, I hope that Autumn will hand that off to her children. That in this experiment of a democracy, your voice matters when you vote and get engaged. I close out this special edition by sharing with you one of my favorite shorts on voting. It is not our rights, but it's been a part of public permission to share. And it is a wonderful story that I think you will enjoy as we go to a close across all platforms. I hope you will enjoy Otis's Dream, which I think is an amazing story. And I want to bid you a great night.
Let me tell you a story about my father,
Otis Moss Sr. It's the story of my father's determination to exercise his right to vote. One morning in the fall of 1946, he got up, determined to cast his ballot. My father was a farmer, a sharecropper in the rural South. He served in the military during the First World War. Always a man of dignity, quiet courage and determination. Our mother, his devoted wife, had died at an early age, and my father struggled as a single parent of 5 children.
I'm going to vote today.
We were amazed, excited that our father is about to do something really significant.
Go vote, Papa! Vote him out! Yeah, go get him! We love you! Go get him! Good luck! Bye! We love you! Take care! Go vote him out!
He walked from the house well-dressed, well-groomed, 6 miles to the town center. Now, in every age, things have been introduced to keep certain people from voting, especially black people. We knew the racism, the hatred, the injustice represented in Governor Eugene Talmadge.
And some of the Negroes will vote if I'm your governor. They won't vote in our white banner the next 4 years.
He was well aware of all of the dangers, toils, snares, and roadblocks to keep him from voting. But he was willing to face all of that and exercise his right to vote. He did not know what the experience would be for him on that day, but he was well aware of what was taking place all over the South at that very moment.
Mr. Goldsmith, my best to your family.
Sir, I am Otis Moss, and I am here to vote.
What did you say your name was?
Otis Moss.
Otis, it looks like you've come to the wrong polling place. You need to go over to the Mountville School.
I have a letter here from the county stating that I vote here.
People from your side of town are to vote in Mountville. You're supposed to get a letter, but the mail's been slow this past few weeks. Now, did he come in? Have you seen him?
I think he came here a little earlier.
May I have my letter back?
Please.
Let me tell you a story about my grandfather. He'd already walked 6 miles to the first polling place. Now he's being told, you've come to the wrong place. A clear and blatant lie. Now he has to go to the Montville School. And the Montville School is in a different city. I imagine as my grandfather walked, the sounds of the world crept into his ear. You are a second-class citizen. You are 3/5 of a person. You are nothing but a Negro. But in his spirit, he heard his faith and the song say, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Not just walking, but marching to the next polling place. He steps through the doors of the Montville School, unsure of what he will face.
Bless you. Yes?
I'm here to vote. I was sent here from the LaGrange courthouse.
You are in the wrong place. You're supposed to vote at the Rosemont School.
Now, the clerk from the courthouse said I was to come here.
I don't know about that, but I know you're supposed to vote at the Rosemont School.
Ma'am.
Let me tell you the story of my great-grandfather. Because of the color of his skin, he was held back from voting. Voting, a basic right of his, one of his freedoms. And because of the way he looked, he wasn't allowed to. Despite the next polling place being 6 more miles, despite the disappointment and the anger and the frustration, his determination, strong will, and dream to vote outweighed any disappointment that crossed his mind.
Boy, I sure am sorry, but the polling place closed. Now, if you would have been here 5 minutes earlier, we would have let you in.
Wounded, but never give up. Denied, but never accepting that denial. Insulted, but refusing to accept the insult inwardly, and thereby setting an example and a memory for generations unborn. Just a few years after that, our father was killed in an automobile accident. Fast forward, I became a participant in the civil rights movement and the voting rights movement, and joined Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the Selma March, witnessed the signing of the Voting Rights Bill 1965. That was a great moment. It was a great victory. In the civil rights struggle, it was a great accomplishment. However, no one could dig up our father's bones and put a ballot in his hand. Some things are beyond repair.
Give Papa a minute. Next time. Next time. Listen here. Promise me. If you get a chance, you gotta vote.
One of the remarkable moments in my life and in my memory is taking my son, Otis III, to vote. I paused on my side of the curtain in prayerful silence and listened to Otis III punch his ballot. That became music. Freedom music. Liberation music. The sound of my father's footsteps trying to cast his vote.
Walk with me, Lord.